Hello, Degens. Welcome to Degenerate Takes College Football Power 5 Preview. I, of course, am the Brofect1 AJ, and joining me, as always, is the man with the numbers, the sportsbook whisperer, college basketball guru, daddy of the diamond. All hail the king of the links, Mr. Noah Engelbret's in the Money Train. Noah, how the hell you doing today, bub?
I'm great. Had to sweat out a 13 inning 1-0 game last night with the Mariners and Yankees to put it into the green for the day. But you know what? Took 13 innings of waiting for a single run to even be scored, but we got there.
There you go, Noah. Love to hear it. And, I love talking about baseball, and I love talking about baseball bets and everything. It is my life and blood. But, Noah, we are so freaking close to week 0. It's not even funny, bro. We are so close to college football, waking up in the morning, shotgunning a beer as you shower, taking a couple shots, walking down to the field, sweating your ass off in the stands, and not being able to buy a damn beer because we went to school at the wrong time, Noah. But college football is all the way back, and it's here, and I could not be more excited about it, honestly.
Yeah, fun little anecdote. I mean, AJ, you know this just for the viewers. I used to, in college, get up at, you know, I'd set my alarm, be out Friday night, but, college football on Saturday, set that alarm for 8:30, 8:45, and I would wake up the whole house and tell everybody, hey, it's college football. Game day's on. Let's start watching game day. Let's start drinking some beers and yeah, you know that well enough, AJ. And
There were
there
there
there was
were
there was no sleeping in on Saturdays in a house I live in.
Oh, no shot. There were many Friday nights, Saturday mornings where I was telling Noah, please don't wake me up until the afternoon games. But sure enough, he had a nice ice cold Bud Light in his hand for me, ready to go at 8:30. And Noah, it is time to get back to those days as we are here to break down the Power 5 conferences that is college football. Noah, we should get started, bro, because we got a lot to cover. There's a lot of
We
conferences, a
do.
lot of teams, and a lot of shit to bet on, Noah. I mean, there's so much shit to bet on, dude. I love it. We're back. Football's all the way back, Noah. Let's go ahead and jump right into it with the Big 12. Baylor Bears being the defending champions after an epic win against OK State. BYU,
Yeah,
I mean, Baylor is one of those schools it's what, they're third, second year with this coach, third year with this coach, Dave Arnott. And I mean, it's you got some roster changes and stuff, but they're a squad that I think is going to really kind of stay the course and have the opportunity to be defending back-to-back champs.
yeah. The I like Baylor. I
Yeah,
think they're going to be really good again this year, and I think it's funny with all this conference realignment stuff. Everyone's talking about, oh well, is the Big Ten really that much of a destination? How are they going to be competitive? Uh, or Big 12 rather. My bad. But you look at the first preseason coaches poll, and you got to go down a little bit till you get to any of the Big 12 teams. But Oklahoma at 9, Baylor right behind them at 10, Oklahoma State right there at 11. Go down a little bit farther, and you got Texas at 18, and then
that's funny.
I believe Iowa State's still. I'm not seeing them. Maybe they're not quite cracking that top 25 for the first poll. Either I'm,
I didn't see him.
blind and missing them, or they're right outside of it, I guess. But you got some powerful teams in there, and even if you get rid of Oklahoma and Texas, you got two teams in the top 12 there in Oklahoma State and Baylor. The two that were in the championship game last year. Oklahoma State probably should have won that. A little bit of a controversial ending there. Baylor ultimately getting the W, and Oklahoma State might have made the college football playoff last year if they had won that game. So actually, they probably would have gotten in over Cincinnati, I think. So this one's interesting. Everybody coming in at plus odds.
Yeah.
Only the Big 12 and the Pac 12 having every team at plus odds. Oklahoma, the favorite, plus 200. Texas at plus 250. And then you got Baylor at 550, Oklahoma State at plus 650, and Iowa State at plus 1100. AJ, I don't think Oklahoma or Texas wins this conference this year.
Yeah, can we talk about that, Noah? Because when I woke up this morning, was prepping for the show, I was taking a look at the odds because, of course, Noah, we're degenerates. We can't talk about sports without talking about money. And I was so happy. I was so happy to see that people are still thinking Texas football is back because I was once that person. That was me last season. Last season, oh, the
And the
Longhorns are
season
all the way
before.
back. And the season before, Texas is all the way back. Horns up. Let's go, Longhorns. It's going to be good with our Minister of Student Activity or whatever the hell, Matthew McConaughey. What's his position? But anyway, it doesn't matter. I was feeling confident, but Noah, I saw the light. I saw the light, and that light is that Texas will suck for a long time, and Texas football is not back whatsoever. The fact that they're second favorite to win the conference is mind-blowing to me. And the fact that Oklahoma, after losing Lincoln Riley last year, to be the favorite to win there. I mean, losing Caleb Williams, losing a bunch of guys, going to USC. We'll talk about them in a little bit. But I think Oklahoma is probably in, essentially what you could call a rebuild year.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I think Oklahoma, I don't hate them having the best odds to win this conference. They're such an established program that they did just reload a shit ton of talent, even though they had a lot of guys transfer out with Lincoln Riley leaving. I don't think they're going to be bad by any means, but I think Baylor, Oklahoma State, and Iowa State even are not getting as much attention and respect as they should be. I think this conference is wide open. I think it's a 5-horse race, and I would say they all have pretty similar odds of winning the conference, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Now, the odds don't reflect that, but I could see any one of those 5 teams winning the Big 12. And so I guess I'll just jump right into my pick here for the conference, and it's a 3-headed pick. I am going to bet equal units on Baylor, Oklahoma State, and Iowa State. I feel very comfortable in that. And for instance, taking that strategy, if you take a 1-unit bet, if Baylor wins the conference, you're up 3.5 units. If Oklahoma State wins it, you're up 4.5 units. And if Iowa State pulls it off, you're up 9 units. If you're just betting 1 unit on each of them, because it is a long-term future, I'll probably go a little bit more than just a single unit on each of those. So yeah, I'm basically betting that Oklahoma or Texas will not win the Big 12.
Yeah, and I mean, I would take that bet as well. I'm going to go with a single pick here. I think Baylor repeats here. I really like the way they're set up. I like that they got a quarterback coming back. And yeah, I think they're going to be really solid this year. It's going to be. Oh, I'm sorry, they have a red shirt coming back this year, but he did play in the playoff game against OK State and won the game through the controversy and everything like that. So a guy who's got big game experience and he's going to play a regular season. I'm confident in that. Give me Baylor. Noah, before we move on, just quick question. No answer needed. But out of the 3 bottom tier teams, West Virginia, Texas Tech, Kansas Jayhawks, who has a better season?
Which 3 teams were you saying there?
West Virginia, Texas Tech, and the Jayhawks.
Oh, Tech, easily.
I'm with you on the Tech. I'll ride that train. Now, Noah, sorry.
I was just going to say, yeah, Texas Tech's going to probably look the same as they always do. They're going to have a really, really explosive offense, but they're going to lose a lot of games, 55-40.
Yeah, a lot of games.
And they'll win a couple games, 55-50. So probably looking at a team that's capable of putting up 50 points, but also capable of giving up 60. So,
oh yeah. It'll be interesting to see if their defense can hold it together at all for enough wins. But moving on, Noah, to a conference that we know too much about and one that brings us nothing but pain and suffering. The one conference that honestly looks like it may be dead and might change next time we do this podcast to be from the Power 5 to the Power 4. Of course, I'm talking about the Pac-12, Noah. Overall, Utah's the favorite to come in and do it again. USC not far behind them. Oregon Ducks still there. UCLA still getting the hype because they're an LA team. Washington, ASU, and then all the way down at the bottom with Colorado Buffaloes is our Wildcats. Noah, I think the Wildcats are going to win more than 2 games this season, but I don't think they're winning more than 4 games this season.
Yeah, I think we'll finish in the bottom third. So I think we'll be in that bottom 4 teams, but barely. I can't see Arizona being worse than Colorado,
No.
and I think Cal's going to be a little bit better this year, but still nothing great. Stanford's not going to be anything great. I am going to say hot take. I think we finish better than Arizona State, and potentially Washington State, Oregon State. So I take that back. Maybe I don't have us in the bottom third. I have us in the bottom. I have us in the bottom half of the conference. I don't think we finish top 6, but I like Arizona to win 4 games ish this year. Maybe actually maybe even 5. I like us to win most of our non-conference schedule and then pick up 2 or 3 wins in Pac-12 play. I think we finish a game or 2 under 500 this year. Not going to be bowl eligible yet this year. That'll come, next year or the year after. But I think we win either 4 or 5 games.
I could totally see it. I hope we do, so we go into the right direction. I am going to push back on ASU a little bit. I think they're going to do better than last year. I think they're kind of in the same place Arizona is, with just how bad their teams are, and I really don't think they can do a lot worse than they did.
Oh, they've been falling apart at the seams. I mean,
I know, but
everybody who's anybody's been transferring out, and nobody wants to play for that program. They have zero culture, which such a big thing in college sports, especially college football, is what kind of culture you have there. They don't have any culture at all there. So regardless of the fact that they might be more talented than other teams, I don't think they're going to win a whole lot of games because they're, I don't think half the players there actually even want to be there.
Fair enough. I can see that. We'll see. I'm high on them. The big story coming out of the Pac-12, though, obviously USC getting Lincoln Riley and a bunch of transfers from there. Their number 2 is the betting favorite. I think they should be number 1.
I'm seeing them at number 1.
Oh, I'm sorry. I see them tied for 1 at my book. I just can't read, Noah.
Okay, yeah. I'm seeing them at plus 200, Utah at plus 250, and then Oregon at plus 300 right behind them. And then
I got Oregon at 300, but I got those 2 at plus 210. So of course, this is why we need a sportsbook partner. This is why, Noah. So any sportsbook partners out there, this is why we need you. Help us out. Help us be a more professional show. But
also why until we have a partner, I'm going to completely advocate shopping books and finding the best line.
Shop your books.
Now, if we do end up with a partnership, I will very quickly pivot that take to you should use, whatever. But I had, as of now, until we have a partnership, shop your books, because obviously, depending on what you're looking at.
You don't have this app.
Oh, sorry about that.
You can download and install now, Noah. Your FBI agent wants to talk to you.
Yeah, my TV thought I was talking to it. If you've watched any of the live streams, that happens sometimes, but I usually have it on mute. That was just shouting at me. Anyways,
USC,
what was I talking about?
Lincoln Riley. Do you think they're going to be any good?
I see him going like 8-4 this year.
Okay. Do they crack the top 25? Crack AP?
Maybe at some point. Are they in the initial top 25 or outside of it?
I believe they're outside of it. Let me double check. Yeah, they're outside.
They're at 15.
Oh yeah, they are. There they are. 15. Oregon's at 12. Utah's at 8. I'm surprised UCLA isn't in the top 5. I just feel like they always put them in the top 5 for whatever reason.
Yeah, I think they'll fall out of that by the time we get a couple weeks into conference play. I think USC is going to be really good in a couple of years. I don't think for the rest of their tenure in the Pac-12 they're going to win a title or even be really contesting too much for one. I'm shocked to see Utah at plus 250 here. I love Utah. I think Utah's potentially a top 5 team in the country this year.
Wow.
Potentially. They're going to be Yeah, but I think they're top 10 for sure. I think they're going to be a top 10 team. They're going to be really good. They got a lot of pieces coming back from a really good a year ago. I I see Utah winning the Pac-12, barely missing the college football playoff. So I think it's personally I think it's a no-brainer to jump on Utah to win the Pac-12, and that's all I got for the Pac-12 there.
I'm gonna throw my one unit on USC. Honestly, I believe in Lincoln Riley and what he can do, and I think he's gonna turn that program around real fucking quick. But Noah, we're done with the 12s. Let's move on to the 10. That being the Big 10. Big storyline coming out of that. Honestly, I think the biggest one is Ohio State going to lose to Michigan again?
I mean, it took Harbaugh like almost a decade to beat Ohio State for the first time. Don't know. It could happen. It could happen. I've got another interesting strategy here with the Big Ten, though.
Oh, let me hear it.
So I think I'm gonna put a couple unit play. I don't know what I'm doing unit wise here yet for any of these. We will figure that out at some point. But let's just say hypothetically, you throw 3 or 4 units on Ohio State at minus. I'm seeing them at minus 235. That might vary by the book. But then cover the bases with a half or a 3/4 unit on Michigan and Wisconsin. I don't think anybody outside of Ohio State, Michigan, or Wisconsin wins the Big Ten. So I feel like that's a very safe bet to guarantee some degree of profit.
Yeah, I love that, Noah. Honestly, the only thing I want to push back on is I got Penn State doing pretty well this season. I mean, they had a rough outing last year, but I think Penn State, they might figure something out. I think the Big Ten is a lot more open than people give credit for.
I don't think so when it's all said and done. I think on a week-by-week basis, yes, but there's going to be too many regular season losses. The conference is too deep for the teams that can't separate themselves. For instance, like Minnesota and Iowa, like they could make a push and they could contest Wisconsin, possibly Minnesota or Iowa like they did last year could win the Big Ten West. However, they get to the Big Ten championship game and they're playing either Ohio State or Michigan. That's when the talent discrepancy comes in.
Yeah.
Like no matter how well, like if you're a little bit better coached or whatever, it just Minnesota and Iowa with not having very many 4-star and hardly any, if any, 5-star recruits. Then you just struggle and get walloped like Michigan walloped Iowa last year. So
yeah, absolutely.
So that's why I'm not worried about anybody other than Wisconsin out of the Big Ten West potentially contesting it, and I can't see anybody outside of Ohio State or Michigan winning the East. That Big Ten East is a gauntlet.
Yeah.
When you talk about Ohio State, Michigan, Michigan State, Penn State, all of them in there. I mean, you do get Rutgers is on the up and up. I think they're going to be actually a decent team this year. Maryland's probably going to be dog shit again, but
I could definitely see that.
You got some tough teams in the Big Ten East there, and yeah, I don't really see anybody outside of Ohio State or Michigan coming out of that, and it might come down to who wins that rivalry game in the last week of the season, like it has before. So yeah, that's why I'm sitting where I am with those bets. I do think Ohio State probably wins it, although I do have a little bit of a hunch Ohio State might not be quite as good as people are expecting them to be this year. Number 2 in the first coaches poll ranking. I don't know that they're a top 4 or 5 team, but they might be. They might prove me wrong. I'm on the fence about that. I think they're going to be, they're going to be really good, but
they have a Heisman contender under center, so let's not forget that.
Yeah, and they just might not be quite as good as people are anticipating them.
Fair enough. Last thing on the Big Ten. Let's say Michigan has another half-decent season. How many teams is Harbaugh going to talk to before he eventually goes back to Michigan again? Because he's going to talk to teams after the season again. It's just the same shit. That extension that he signs means nothing.
Well, there's nowhere else to go if you're Harbaugh at the college level. The only thing that's going to take him away from Michigan would be the NFL.
Yes.
And is that what you were alluding to that?
Yes, exactly.
Okay. Yeah, I mean that door's always open. It seems like he's keeping that door open, and I wouldn't be surprised to see him go back to the NFL at some point.
I wouldn't either, especially, but I will say, these teams, these teams are bringing in a lot more younger head coaches. You don't hear about, a journeyman coach that, that's older. And honestly, some teams could have a bad taste in their mouth from seeing what Urban Meyer did, cracking under the pressure of running an NFL team in 4 weeks. And so we don't need to talk about finger guns and everything like that. But I mean,
Well,
again,
Harbaugh's
Harbaugh is not. I'm not saying Harbaugh is Urban Meyer by any means necessary.
he's been in the NFL and he's had success in the NFL. I mean, he took a team to a Super Bowl, so
True. That was a good bowl. The Harbaugh Bowl.
yeah,
That was a good
yeah.
bowl.
So I mean, Jim Harbaugh, I'm not a huge fan of him, but I can't deny that he's had great success coaching at. Actually, he's had probably more success, arguably, in the NFL than he has at Michigan. Last
Fair.
year, finally breaking through after almost a decade there. Um, yeah, I mean, it took him, what, 8 or 9 years to beat Ohio State for the first time,
Yeah, something like that. Yeah.
which is crazy because no other Michigan coach has ever lost more than 5 straight games to Ohio State before being fired. So somehow they kept him around. He did have to take that massive pay cut from like 7 million down to 2 million a year or two ago, but I think they just bumped his contract back up to what it was before because of last season.
Yeah.
But I thought that was hilarious when they like literally cut his contract from like 7 million a year down to 2 million a year just because
Oh, it was
they're
awesome.
like, we're not going to fire you, but we're going to kind of stop paying you.
Yeah. I mean, that was a good move there. But Noah, moving on from the Big Ten to the conference that everyone wants to talk about, conference that is essentially football at some point, that being, or at least they want to believe it, that being the SEC, where, Noah, do you want to take a wild guess at who is projected to win the SEC this year?
Yeah, I mean, it's not even a guess, AJ. It's Alabama. It's Alabama every year, and rightfully so.
Yes.
Like, until I see differently, Alabama should damn well be the favorite every fucking year for the SEC.
I agree, Noah, and you know my hatred for Alabama and everything, but I got to give the respect where respect is due. Nick Saban, I mean, he's coming off of a rebuild year. Let's not forget that. And so, I mean, if going, what was it, 13-2 or some shit like that, and going to the national championship was a rebuilding year for Saban or some shit like that. I mean, unbelievable. But no, I honestly, the disrespect though for the Georgia Bulldogs coming back, not losing a shit ton of players. They did lose a lot of defensive weapons. I will
Bro,
say,
they lost like 8 out of their 11 starters on defense.
Yeah. So next man up. Let's go. They got some depth there.
Right. Right. And Georgia's one of about 5 or 10 teams in the country who can do the whole next man up thing, but they had a legendary defense as far as college football seasons go last year, and that's what carried them to the championship. Their offense was not anything spectacular. They've got the same kind of offensive system, a lot of the same offensive starters coming back. I mean, maybe they get a little bit better because of just a year older and being together longer, but I don't anticipate Georgia's offense being anything super special this year. And so they're just a big question mark for me because I don't know. I don't think that defense is going to be able to be as good as the one last year. The question is, can they be good enough to still win the SEC? I think that is in the realm of possibility, but there's no fucking way I'm not taking Alabama here, especially laying minus 130,
Yeah.
almost 1-to-1 odds.
It's a short price there.
I am slamma jamma whamma in that Alabama to win the SEC because you know what the truth of it is? Fucking since Saban took over, 7 out of every 10 years they win the SEC.
True.
And when they don't, it seems like whoever beats them in the SEC championship game wins the national championship.
Who would have thunk that? I mean,
so
yeah, I get it.
So it's either like Alabama wins the national championship or whoever they lose to in the SEC championship game wins the national championship. And that's like 90% of your years in college football for the last like 2 decades. So
Yeah, don't get me wrong. You got to bet on them. It's responsible gambling and everything. We talk about responsible gambling all the time on this show, and that's just being a responsible gambler, putting your money on Alabama. And I will say, though, if you're feeling frisky, you're getting really good prices on every other team because after Georgia, it goes up to, the thousands and everything. Texas A&M, the closest after Georgia. Is it even worth talking about some of these teams? Like Texas A&M is going to do what they do. They're a half-decent program. Ole Miss is going to try to stay in there. Tennessee's going to try to compete. But, Arkansas maybe makes a little run, but it's really the Alabama-Georgia show. It's Nick Saban and Kirby Smart show until Texas and Oklahoma get there.
Yeah, I feel like there's like once every 2 or 3 years, there's a random SEC team that has an incredible season, like LSU a couple years ago.
Yeah, exactly.
Where they just, they were projected like 7 or 8 wins and then came out of nowhere and had arguably the best season in college football history. For sure the best on the offensive side of the ball we've ever seen.
Oh, absolutely.
And so, maybe there's an outside chance somebody comes up. A&M would be the one team I would look at to do that.
Yeah.
They seem to be trending in the right direction, getting better and better. They do have a coach who's won a national championship in Jimbo Fisher, so he's got that experience. A&M's now beaten Alabama twice in the last, I think, 5 or 6 years. So, at the SEC West, A&M, I think, is the only legitimate threat to Alabama. I don't see them doing well enough to make it to the SEC championship game. Alabama will for sure. And then it's just a matter of who they're playing in that. Likely Georgia. Probably going to see Alabama, Georgia. We might see both teams in the playoff again. Who knows?
Who knows? We'll figure it out, and that's what we'll wait and see. Noah, wrapping it up for our Power 5 conference preview is conference number 5, and that is the Nope, wrong one.
ACC.
Yep, I clicked on the wrong one, no, so it took me to the AAC, which is the wrong one, because the sports betting site I use is not very helpful sometimes. To make it even more helpful, they don't even have the ACC up. Wow.
Okay. Well, I can take the lead here.
Yeah, please do, Noah, because I got notes on it. I just can't find the lines.
Yeah, so I'm seeing, Clemson is the favorite at -125.
Typical.
And then Miami at +500, Pittsburgh at +850, North Carolina State at +900, and North Carolina at 1,200. I won't go on into the bottom feeders there because I don't think we even need to pay attention to the rest of the teams in that conference.
No, I got to agree with you completely on there, Noah. Clemson being the favorite doesn't really shock me whatsoever. NC State, they had a good little run last year. We bet on them. We made some money last season with them. We going to see a nice little surprise again, Noah?
I think, I don't know if it's fair to call them a sleeper, but I think they're, as far as where the odds are at, I think they're the biggest, most slept on team in this conference. I think they're going to contest at that +900. However, I can't talk myself into taking anything other than Clemson -125. Yeah. I don't think there's any way Dabo and Clemson lose this conference 2 years in a row.
No shot.
So I actually think that -125 is a very, very generous line. So I'm all over that, which is funny, kind of right where that Alabama line is, but I'm even more confident in Clemson to win the ACC than I am in Bama to win the SEC.
Wow. That's fair. I'm going to be a little different here. I'm going to go with NC State, bro. I think we see a run of runs for them this season after last year. They got all the pieces still in place, didn't take any big hits this offseason. They have the chance to, put together a pretty good run. I'm taking them, honestly, and I'm just going to let that one sit.
Yeah, again, I think NC State's going to be really good. I don't understand them being, fourth highest in the odds. I think Miami's way too high at +500. I don't know if that's just because Mario Cristobal coming in from Oregon, as their new head coach. But it takes a couple years to establish, culture and a
Yes.
team and everything you want to do when you're a new head coach. Same reason I don't like USC to win the Pac-12, because Lincoln Riley taking over a 5-win program or whatever they were last year, and
Yeah.
he got a lot of like 4 or 5-star recruit transfers and new recruits coming in, but I think it's going to take both of those places. I think it's going to take both Miami and USC at least 2 seasons to actually be, have their name in the ring for making the playoff or anything like that, or contesting for it.
Hey, that's why you play the games. We'll see. We'll see. But Noah, before we get out of here, we talked about the Power 5 conferences, but we got to talk about the one independent that always is on everyone's radar when it comes to college football, and that being the Notre Dame Fighting Irish. Currently, to win the whole thing, they are plus 5,000 to win the championship. I mean, that's a pretty fair fight price for them. I wasn't overly what's the word I'm looking for? I wasn't overwhelmed with them, let's say, when I saw them play last year. I thought they were pretty mediocre when it comes to Fighting Irish football. Hoping for a good bounce back this year, but I don't know. Noah, what are you thinking?
I think they have to go 12-0 to make the playoff. And they start with a road game at Ohio State. Then they have Marshall at home. That's an easy win. Cal at home. That's an easy win. At North Carolina, that should be a relatively easy win. Here's a little kicker. Then they go into BYU, into Provo to play BYU. That might be a game where Notre Dame will probably be about a 2-touchdown favorite in that game, and that might be a juicy BYU money line that I jump on there.
Oh, that'll be real fat and juicy for you.
They then host Stanford, home against UNLV, at Syracuse, and then they have Clemson on November 5th. Looks like that game's in Notre Dame, or at Notre Dame. That's going to be another really tough one. They probably won't be favored in that one. Then they play at Navy, host Boston College, and then at USC. I think, between that Ohio State, BYU, Clemson, and potentially even the at USC game, they're going to lose at least 2 of those, I think.
Oh, yeah.
So their national title hopes, their playoff hopes, like I said, I think they have to go pretty much 12-0. Unless they're 11-1 and the one loss they have is to either Clemson or Ohio State, who's ranked number 1 at the time, because then you're like, okay, well, you lost. Like if they lose to Ohio State and Ohio State's 1 or 2 at the time, it's like, okay, well, you lost a road game to a top 2 team. And then it depends on how close that game is. Because if it's a blowout loss, then I don't think they get the benefit of the doubt. If it's close, they do. I think they're going to have a really good season. I just don't think it's going to be enough to warrant making the playoffs.
Yeah,
Speaking of AJ,
yeah.
On a last note here before we wrap up, I wanted to get who right now is your 4 teams that you have projected to make the college football playoff?
Oh, shit, to make? Alabama,
yes.
Obviously. Ohio State, obviously. Oh, God, no. Put me on the spot like that. Jeez. NC State.
All right.
And then I'm going to give the Pac-12 some love. Pac-12 hasn't seen a playoff in forever, and so I'm going to throw the Utes in there. I think the Utes are going to have a season for the books this year, and I think they can be the first Pac-12 team in a while to make it into the playoffs. Where are you sitting?
Interesting. Yeah, I'm not super far off. I'm gonna go Alabama, Ohio State, Clemson.
Yeah.
I think Clemson goes clean slate, 12-0 regular season. And then I'm torn with my 4th one between Utah and Oklahoma State, because the problem is I think the Big 12 is going to be good enough there at the top. They're going to beat up enough on each other that there's going to be too many losses. It's going to be like a 2-loss team who ends up winning. And so I'm going to go with Utah, because just because I think Utah maybe has a chance at going clean slate with their regular season. Let me just pull up their schedule to make sure they don't have any like
Alabama's or anything.
random. Yeah, just to make sure they don't have any random fucking like non-conference
Like super
toughies in
killers,
there.
yeah.
Although they might be playing BYU again this year. I think.
Whew.
What do they call that? Like the Holy Land rivalry or
Yeah.
something. It would help if we had the right year on here. Okay.
Yeah, you do need
Oh,
the
they
right
play.
year.
So they play Florida to start the season. I know that's a big one people have their eyes on. I don't think Florida is going to stand a chance against Utah.
No.
And they have Southern Utah, San Diego State at home. At Arizona State, not a problem. Home against Oregon State, not a problem. At UCLA, not a problem. Home against USC, which is probably big that they have that at home. Then at Washington State, home against Arizona, home against Stanford. At Oregon, which might be the only kicker there. And then they play at Colorado the last week of the season. So I think it's very viable that Utah goes 12-0. And if they do go 12-0, if you go 12-0 in any power conference, and then 13-0 with the conference championship game, you're automatically in. So
Yeah.
I'm gonna say just because of how weak the Pac-12 is, that Utah makes it as that fourth team.
I'm with you, dude. I think this is the year the Pac-12 finally sees something, especially with that weak-ass division that we call the Pac-12. Yeah, no, anything else real quick?
What do they have Bama at to win the championship? Because whatever number that is, I love it. Like
180 plus the
3 or
180.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
I was hoping it
really.
was going to be like 300 or 400. 180 is a little iffy, but I'll probably still end up on that.
All right, fair enough, man. I'm gonna stick with the Utes plus 4K.
I mean, the number's not bad.
Hey, you know I love the number. But with that being said, thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed, and I know you did, like, share, and subscribe down below. Help us grow the channel and fight that YouTube algorithm that's been kicking our ass lately. You can also follow us on the Twitter at DGenTakes for the show, myself at Brofect1, Noah at N_Engelbretson, or Engel Money Train for all of the best bets like the ones you just saw. Also, we got the merch now. That's right. Go ahead, check that out in the link down below. And Noah, it's going to be a big college football season. We have a big announcement coming next week regarding our plans for college football, so you don't want to miss that. With that being said, I've been the Brofect1 AJ. That's the Money Train, Noah, and we'll see you next time on Degenerate Takes.